Kansas looks special right now, everybody. Their quarterback is a dog. Their receivers are dogs. Rank them cowards at the AP.
Now, am I saying that they're still Lincoln Riley levels? No, I do not think so.
Let's pump the brakes a little bit on USC. Let's not get out of control. And Minnesota is going to be on the map and going to be the favorite for the Big Ten West. I think there's going to be a massacre at Michigan State this weekend.
What's going on, YouTube? It is the Dual Threat Podcast here, your daily news source for all things sports. My name is Drew. We got the merch on, and this is my co-host.
Yes, sir. I'm Jacob. How's it going, everybody?
What is going on, everybody? Here's the deal. First things first, you're going to want to subscribe. You're going to want to like the video, and then you're going to want to comment, but not too quickly, because hear out what we have to say before you go ahead and argue with us in the comments. So what we're going to do today is called Over-Under Reactions. It's a little segment that we do. Jacob, why don't you explain it for us?
Yeah, so overreactions, things that the media is talking about, either good or bad, that maybe they shouldn't be hyping up so much. Underreactions, pretty much the opposite. Things that nobody's talking about that deserve some media love, and we're here to give it to them as part of the media.
Maybe even some hate, Jacob. We don't know. All right, here we go. Let's get started with it. All right, Jacob, let's see what's going on here. I'm going to go with my first overreaction. I believe, including with the AP poll, Associate Press, Washington is just a little bit overrated here. We need to pump the brakes just a little bit, as Jacob was talking about last week. Washington beat Michigan State at home by 11 points and was raised all the way in the polls. And turns out Michigan State is not a very good team. They look like to be a one-year wonder right now. I know they lost a lot of people on offense, especially Kenneth Walker, who basically carried them last year. But they're really not challenged this year until Oregon. And maybe even this weekend playing UCLA, they're only a field goal favorite. So here's the deal. They're not as good as a team as a top 15 team. And I think maybe we're just, overreacting a little bit because of a win that they had that turns out to not be that great anymore. So that's my first overreaction. Jacob, why don't you give us yours?
Yep, I'm gonna flip the script, go underreaction to start. Similar to last week when you picked Georgia as your underreaction, I'm going with Alabama. Listen, week 2, nail biter against Texas, right? Everybody was kind of off the train, off the gravy train right off the rip. But I'm here to say the Alabama Crimson Tide are back. They took a 1-week hiatus and they are back, absolutely dominating Vanderbilt, and not a single human being on the planet's talking about it. Vanderbilt has actually played relatively decently this season. This is a team that is typically 30-point dogs to every competent team they play. Didn't hold it close necessarily to Wake Forest, but they only lost by 20 and scored 25 on them. I think this game, absolute domination from Alabama, 55-3, is just going under the radar. Nobody's talking about it, and I think we'll see that when Alabama plays Arkansas. Alabama, everybody's talking about. They play bad on the road. Their last 5 road games dating back to last season: LSU, Auburn, A&M, whatever. But I think Nick Saban hears all that, and he's going to come out and say, "Silence the haters. Let's go beat down an already beaten Arkansas team and just bury the chances." So I like Alabama. I think they're not getting a lot of love, and they're still right up there with Georgia.
All right, well, I'm going to stick with you and talk about under and somewhat related to Arkansas here. We're actually going to talk about the team they just played, and that is Texas A&M. Now, here's the deal with Texas A&M. It's been very clear that they have not had an offense this year, and I truly believe that yes, people are talking about and showing that fumble recovery for 99 yards where he handed it off, and people are talking about it, because it's, really cool, great highlight, but they're not talking about the fact of what kind of implications it can have, especially on Texas A&M's season, much less that game. I mean, here's just some basic stats for you for this game. Let's go ahead and go to the bulletin board here for this one. So as you can see right here, Texas A&M, they had 106 yards and 4 punts. Before that, they had one touchdown. Before that fumble. And Arkansas was just absolutely dominating that game. They had 182 yards. They had 2 touchdowns, about to score another one, about to dive into that end zone. That's what KJ Jefferson was trying to do. And then he fumbled the ball. After that point, there was 254 yards from A&M's offense until the point where their number one receiver got injured. 19 yards from Arkansas's offense. That is a team that can run the ball like nobody's business, especially over an A&M defense that does a 3-man front who gets ran over every single game. And that is a huge difference maker. And not only that game, which was very obvious, but it may have implications on A&M's entire season. It looked like the A&M offense that has been missing came out, especially after that second half. In the third quarter, they drove 80 yards, scored a touchdown in maybe 2 minutes. And then Anaya Smith got injured, and that's kind of when I feel like A&M kind of got out of whack, and they only had 40 yards. They had a missed field goal, and they had a punt. Arkansas seemed to kind of bring it back. They had 100 yards, 114 yards, one missed field goal, and a touchdown. But I think that fumble, if we are looking down the path and we see that A&M has 2 or 3 losses when everybody was like, wow, they may start 2-6 this year or whatever because their schedule is so difficult. I think we'll look at that moment and be like, that is the moment that A&M really turned everything and started to click. And yeah, I think nobody's really talking about that. We may see they've got a big competition in Mississippi State this weekend, who's a pass first team. So we'll see how that goes. Jacob, what about you for your next one?
All right, my next one. It's actually kind of a flip ski here. Both sides. I'm going to talk about both sides of the Clemson game. So my first thing is I think we're overreacting to Clemson's offense. That 371 yards from DJ Uiagalelei, 188 rushing yards. They look good against a Wake Forest team that's always known for having a good offense and a horrible defense. And so for a team that's ranked number 5 that people are saying is championship contender, I don't take that much stake in a 51-point game against a team with a bad defense. Maybe that's just me, but it just feels like everybody's giving them a lot more credit than they should be getting here. So yeah, I think we're overreacting a little bit to their offense, and I think we're kind of underreacting to their defense. Sam Hartman is a really good quarterback, and like I just said, Wake Forest is known for having a good offense. But 45 points in a division game or a conference game, like if you're number 5 in the country, you're expecting to go up against Alabama, Georgia, even USC, teams that have way better offenses than Wake Forest. You can't expect that it's going to be this type of game. I think their defense needs to get fixed up quick. They are missing Venables, and if they don't change something, that number 5 is going to be the highest they get all season because I don't think. I mean, we'll see. NC State might give them a run for their money again. In Wake Forest almost beat them this year. I think there's both ways, but I think overall Clemson's just being overrated right now, just as a whole.
Well, all right. Well, I'm going to do one last over for my part of this segment. I'm actually going to go. I'm going to stay in the SEC, but I'm actually going to go to the other side of the conference, and I'm going to go to the Tennessee win. Now, their offense looked phenomenal. This was the Hendon Hooker that we were promised all year long. I want to talk about their defense. I think the only overreaction we have in this game is that Tennessee looked like a team that could win the SEC East. And maybe that's so on the offensive side, but there are 2 different sides of a football team. And when your defense gives up 450 yards, passing yards, to a quarterback who's really a running back, that's hiding as a quarterback, it's just it's very hard for me to see that you're going to be able to put up with Georgia's offense when Stetson Bennett has looked phenomenal this year. When you're giving up 455 yards to a quarterback who hasn't thrown a passing touchdown this year up until that point. And so I'm saying that Tennessee really needs to figure it out on their secondary level. I think that they're going to have major problems when they're playing Georgia, especially when they have to play against Bowser, that tight end who's phenomenal, probably the best tight end in the country. Some people telling me the Notre Dame one is. I kind of disagree with them on that. But I think if they're going to want to win the SEC East, as you know, people have been chattering up about, they need to figure it out on that secondary level. Obviously, they have the offense figured out, but if you're going to want to play against Georgia and compete for that championship to play in Atlanta, you're going to have to figure it out on defense. Jacob?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think Bowers has a chance to be the best player in the country, not just tight end, but speaking of best players in the country, I mean, listen, last week I was pretty outspoken. I wanted Minnesota after they beat down Michigan State, which happened. I wanted them to be ranked. They're number 21. My other request was for the Kansas Jayhawks when they moved to 4-0 to be ranked. And the Associate Press looks at me and says, we don't care what you think. And I say, all right, that's fine. The Kansas Jayhawks are legit, people. Jalen Daniels went from not even on the board for the Heisman voting in Vegas to one of the favorites. I think he's like the 10th favorite still. Sixth. Unbelievable. I mean, you cannot tell me that the Kansas Jayhawks don't have a legitimate chance to win an absolute brutalized and battered Big 12 this year. 324 passing yards this week. Oh, that's good. Led his team in rushing with 83 yards, 5 total touchdowns. I mean, this man is special. I said it last week. He's a dog, and nobody is listening to me. It's getting me a little fired up, but that's okay because when they go into and play when they play Iowa State at home and they win, we'll see. Drew, put me on the bulletin board one time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just so I can show everybody. Look at this. Jalen Daniels, almost 900 yards through 4 games passing. That's solid. Leading his team in rushing with 4 more touchdowns on the ground. I mean, the dude just does everything his team needs him to do. And the most important of all these stats, the most important one, is the fact that the Kansas Jayhawks are 4-0. And until they get ranked, until they get their national recognition, I'm going to keep barking about them. But until then, Jalen Daniels will be the dog, and he'll bark for me. That's it from me, Drew. You got anything else, brother?
I don't believe so, my guy. I mean, you basically said it yourself. Hey, thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, comment now that you've made it to the end. Now you can go ahead and argue with us. You know, what did we get wrong? What did we get right? But make sure to come back next week when every single take we have this week is correct, just like last week. And make sure to like and subscribe again because these are going to come out every week, and we'll see y'all tomorrow.